Okay, guys, welcome back to Let's Get Freaky. Super excited. We're in California tonight and we welcome Joshua Amen to the show. How are you, brother? Thank you so much for being here, man.
No, I'm great, man. Thank you. Awesome to be able to come up onto the show. I know like the scheduling was hectic. So, and it's been the same thing. Like we've scheduled quite a few podcasts at this point with people in the UK, across the pond, and like it is the same thing every time. We're always up really late, and you guys are always up really early.
But it's different for me. So I basically live on Eastern Standard Time. So that's normally my time.
Mhm.
So I'm normally recording early hours of the morning UK time. So right now it's 8 o'clock in the morning UK time and it's midnight where you are. So it's this is weird
Mhm.
for me as well, man. We're in like a weird time zone right now.
uh, it
But
sounds like you were born in the wrong part of the world.
I know I need to get over there. I need to get over there. And I can start sleeping normally, you know? So that's the goal. That is the goal.
Uh,
But I'm excited to have you here tonight, brother. Tonight, this morning, whatever. We're here. Very excited to have you here. You have been a ghost hunter for 12 years, so I'm sure you've got a lot of wild experiences. I'd like to go to the start of your journey, where it all began for you, and what got you into this wild subject of the paranormal.
yeah, no, yeah, 12 years in counting. And I always watched like paranormal TV. I didn't sleep at night when I was a kid, so I was always up at night. And the only things on TV when I was little in the 90s was like I believe it was like Haunted UK or Haunted England, and the Girls Gone Wild infomercials. So really didn't have anything to watch. So I was like, I watched a lot of paranormal TV. And we moved into a house, and my mom and I one night, because we both didn't sleep, it apparently inherited, and she opened my door and she's like, "Hey, you've been up a lot tonight. You okay?" I'm like, "Nah, I've been sitting here the whole time." I'm like, "Fuck you doing out there?" And she's like, "I have moved from my bedroom." So we realized there was something else walking around back and forth in the hallway all night. So, fast forward, I move out, start my own life, and I end up ghost hunting on the Queen Mary, as part of the tour, and I see my first full-bodied apparition. Yeah,
Whoa.
so we were all grouped up in the boiler room. The lead investigator, had given us some equipment. Somebody had a laser point thermometer, which, as most people know nowadays, like it was misused heavily on most paranormal TV shows for a very long time. But all of a sudden, the person using it's like, hey, I just got a temp spike, like 150 degrees. And we're like, that's nuts. Like, that's way hotter than it should be in here. Like, none of this is active. Nothing is on. Like, no matter what that laser point is hitting, there's no way for it to be reading that high. And then we all see this dude walking across the catwalk on the other side. Now, mind you, in the room there, the catwalk where we're at is broken, gone. Like there's nowhere farther we can move forward. And this catwalk that he's on is on the other side. So we're like, how the hell do you get up there? Like, is he from the tour? Like we just think it's another one of the guys in the group. So we go back out. We go towards where that catwalk should be, and it's gone. And it's a straight drop down from where that catwalk is. Like it's just gone. There's nothing there. So we go back and we tell the lead investigator, like, hey, we just saw this guy. He was wearing a like red flannel shirt. He was wearing jeans. Like we just saw him on the catwalk. So he's like, okay, let's get everybody back over here. So he gets everybody grouped up together. Nobody fits the description. So like we all sit there and realize that we just saw somebody that has no way, shape, or form to be able to be where they were, and we can't find them.
Whoa. So you saw the flannel man.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I'm like, this is nuts. So I'm like, oh, I'm psyched up from that. Like, I want to do this. Like, I want to do more of this. So I talked to a friend that I work with, and he's like, "Oh, I've always wanted to go and do that." I'm like, "Well, we should go." but we should do it, you know? And this is before, everything became super expensive. So I'm like, I actually have extra money. So I can go buy a camera,
The good old
you know?
days.
Yeah. And I'm like, the internet's still in its infancies and, we're still trying to figure it all out. Like, I don't got a smartphone where I can like look things up and be like, oh, I just need to go to Amazon. So I'm like trying to figure out like, well, where the hell did we get those cameras? How do you see in the dark? So I ended up with a normal camera and I got all these little tiny flashlights and I fucking duct taped them top and bottom of the camera. So we go out, I'm like, all right, click, 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 and I'm turning all these flashlights on there, duct taped to the camera so we can see in the dark. And we got like a K2 meter, which cost like $60 at the time, because this is how old that is. And now they're like 10, $15. So we got the little K2 and we got an EVP like a Sony recorder for like $100. Now that's like $60. And we go and investigate a bunch of these different areas, and we go out to Brand Park in Glendale. And this park has like a this little private cemetery behind it, where the guy who owned all of it before it became a public park, is buried, and he's buried in a pyramid. So all of the rest of his family's in like normal graves, and he's in a fucking giant pyramid. So we're like, oh, that's really weird. It's got to be haunted. So we go up there. We do some things that we shouldn't be doing. We get in the cemetery, and we get nothing. And we go back down, and we find this little hole in the wall that looks like an opening to a chimney, like cut open with brick, and it's in the side of a freaking hill, like a dirt hill. I'm like, that's not normal. Let's go check that out. And to this day, it's still one of the best EVPs I have. And we got a little girl's voice. And not until I think last year, I showed it to my girlfriend now, and she's like, I think that's Spanish. And I'm like, I have not been able to figure out what this freaking clip has said for 12 years. And she's like, I think it's Spanish. It's saying this. And it basically breaks down to like Sister's Revenge.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So what can you tell us exactly what it was saying?
So
I know it's
had
Spanish.
it some. Oh no, yeah, no. I have the phrase of like what it broke down to, but like I couldn't understand what the hell it said.
But
And then
was it
she
like a
tells
clear
me,
girl's voice though?
"Oh, it's so clear. It's crystal clear.
Oh,
Really high pitched, and it's just like we heard it and we're like, oh my god, that's awesome." And I've slowed it down. I've listened to it a billion times. Uh, it breaks down. It says the sister avenges. So this is the Nancy Brand tomb. So he had like some illegitimate children at some point. So I'm like, I think it has something to do with like all of that.
whoa, man! And did you hear it with like the naked ear,
So
and then
the my buddy at the time, he was sensitive. So literally, like we took turns like shoving one person into the little hole and like record. And he's like, oh, he freaks out. He comes over. He's like, there was a voice. We play the recorder back, and the voice is clearly like we could hear it playing it back on the little recorder. So we're like, no shit. And he heard it live. Like he was able to hear
whoa,
it. None of the rest of us could hear it, but he could hear it.
wow, man, that's wild. That's what I mean. I've you hear some of these EVPs, man, and sometimes they're muffled sometimes, and even they're pretty wild. But then sometimes you get these clear ones where like there's
Mhm.
how can you explain that? You know?
You know, and that's a lot of what I do now is try to figure out ways to explain what it is we're dealing with and what we're doing. And I've learned to apply a lot of science into the paranormal and into like the studies of what we do. And I do a lot of experimentation. And my theories basically range around the fact that like every device we use in the paranormal is EMF, electromagnetic radiation. And so I'm like, okay, well, if every device they interact with runs on the same spectrum, because radio wave is EMF spectrum. IR cameras are on EMF spectrum. Any night vision's all within that. Visible light, uh, ultraviolet, all of these things, gamma rays are even on the electromagnetic spectrum. And these are all devices that have been used in the paranormal. So I'm like, okay, well, that must mean that the soul, or what ghosts are created and made of, is electromagnetic. So I started doing more research. Electromagnetic radiation, can you make a free floating bubble? According to science, that shouldn't be possible. It needs some kind of capacitor. So I'm like, okay, well, that would also explain, you know, spirits that are stuck in a place. They're stuck because their capacitor is that place. They're stuck to a haunted item because that is their capacitor. Almost anything can be a capacitor as long as it has a conductive and a non-conductive element to it. Even a pencil, a piece of paper, like as long as there's something conductive and non-conductive, it can all be a conductor, and it can all, basically hold energy. Whether it's in micro Tesla or gigawatt, it can hold some kind of energy. So, I started doing a lot of research, and at the beginning of my like time into the paranormal, I realized that nobody uses ultraviolet cameras. I'm like, why wouldn't they use ultraviolet cameras? These are so much better than IR. Like IR, it takes so much more light to illuminate in the dark than it does when you do ultraviolet. And then I started researching and realizing that most teams don't get anything on ultraviolet camera. So I'm like, that's odd. So I bought a black light along with a lot of other things. So I have a bunch of different colored flashlights that I use. And anytime I've ever used a black light on an investigation, I get a very negative response. I get screaming, I get yelling, I get no, stop. And it seems like activity like picks up and then stops dead. So I'm like, why
Whoa.
would that be? Yeah, I'm like, why would that be? Why would that happen? So I start looking at, the correlation. What happens when EMF and ultraviolet mix? So in the world of science, when you expose EMF radiation, free floating particle, to ultraviolet light, it goes through this violent process that ends in ionization. And it's negative ionization, the act of pulling electrons. So it's basically like pulling the batteries out of your toy. So,
Wow.
yeah, and it gets down to a molecular level where it's just atoms ripping electrons from other atoms. So I'm like, this could be painful. It could be something that's harmful to them. And basically, what we're doing is we're pulling the battery out of the ghost. So I'm like, at the end of the
Whoa.
day, yeah, and I've always used blacklight on investigations,
Hmm.
and I started using it as a protecting, like a protective agent, which honestly isn't very often because let's face it, the whole like, hey, I'm possessed in every episode of my TV show. Hey, there's a demon every time I'm out in, a random person's house or whatever they're in. That's just all fabricated. None of that's real. I've been doing this 12 years, never come across anything I would categorize as inhuman. And, when things get mad and they get aggressive, they were probably mad and aggressive in life, and now they're just that during death. So if somebody gets scratched or I've had somebody like pushed or somebody just feels uncomfortable, I'll click the black light and I bathe the area in black light real quick. And it feels like the air thickens, and it's that like sensation of walking through water. And then I turn it off and it's like cleansing. It's dissipated. Everything's gone. And
Wow.
what we're feeling in that moment is ionization. We're feeling what that chemical bond is doing. Because we also got to remember UV light is what we use to clean cell phones and electrical devices. It's what we use in sun tanning beds. It's what causes sunburns. So like all of these things all correlate to us in life and in death. So that's where I've been going, like through my
Interesting.
paranormal journey.
Interesting, man. And does that work every single time you use the black light? Every time.
Yeah. Every time I've ever used a black light, that's the same effect every single time.
Wow.
They
So
don't want
there's
to tell me. And I use different color lights during investigations, because they have different effects on us when we're alive. Red light makes people feel scared. Blue light makes people feel safe. Switzerland uses blue light in all of their lamps on the streets. It lowered their crime rates. Like, different color lights do different things for us. So I'm like, it's got to do different things for them. Not to mention, it's a great control question. Click, hey, what color is that? And I've got, spirits that have come through. Oh, that's red. Oh, that's green. Oh, that's blue. I've gotten them to confirm almost every single color I've used, except for one at this point, pink. Pink is the only color that is the top and the bottom of the color spectrum in light. It is red light mixed with ultraviolet pink purple or blue purple light. So it's the only one that has the bottom and top hertz of the color or the light spectrum. And it seems to be like they can't see it. Every time I've ever used it, I can't get an answer out of it. So
interesting.
now I'm trying to figure that out because pink light might be the light we end up using on investigations, no matter how odd it looks, because they can't seem to see it.
Interesting, man. Do you know if any other paranormal teams are using these techniques as well? Or is it just you
Um,
guys?
some people are, some people aren't. It's how I got started talking to Nick and became part of the Stories in the Cemetery team. And we started the Paranormal Investigators Almanac last year. So, and that's got a bunch of like the articles about the stuff we're doing, the research we're doing, including all of the charts that Nick has for his moon study, which also correlates to my EMF like science, because he found that a new moon with no moon at all has a higher chance of getting good activity on an investigation than if you had a full moon. And that correlates perfectly because the moon gets its light from the sun. 10 to 20% of ultraviolet rays bounce off the moon. So I figured out the equation, did math, which I never wanted to do in the paranormal field, but hey, it is what it is. And I figured out, it's about 1 to 5 on the UV scale if you're, doing an investigation at night. And if you have a new moon, you obviously have 0. The highest you can get during the day is maybe a 15. The highest ever recorded is like a 31 from a volcano. And if you use a black light, you get a 20 on the UV spectrum. So it's right there above your, like way above a normal hot day in the middle of, hell, Nevada or wherever it is. But
Interesting, man.
yeah, and it's crazy. Like Nick and I have gone leaps and bounds farther than we thought we would go at this point. Especially after we started talking. And like I've known him about 2 years now, and we've been working on the podcast. And we talk about a lot of the science. We talk about how devices work. We talk about devices that people don't use that could be used in the paranormal. And we've continued to evolve at a rapid pace now that we're basically bouncing ideas back and forth off each other. And Nick had created the uh, paranormal investigators workbook before I met him, and it's basically a grading system, a scoring system for paranormal investigations. So I have that one here as well. I don't know if
Awesome, man.
there we go.
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And are
I didn't
these,
realize it was blurring everything.
yeah, we didn't see the other one properly either.
There you go.
I mean, for the people listening, I will put the links for these books in the show description as well. Are these both on Amazon?
Yes, so they're both on Amazon and they both change every year. So the almanac obviously gets bigger, gets more articles. We actually have 9 writers this year for the almanac, and one of them is Barry Fitzgerald
Oh
from Ghost
wow.
Hunters International.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did an interview with him just last year, and like he shares a lot of the same theories that I'm going on, except for he's leaps and bounds beyond where I'm at this point. Like he's gone so much farther into all of this. He's an amazingly
Interesting.
like intelligent man.
Hmm.
But the Sissy scoring system that Nick invented really helped. Like me, like when I used it the first time, I was like, wow, like, you broke my heart here. I didn't score very well. And he's like, that's the point. He's like, everybody goes into an investigation. This is the most haunted jail. This is the most haunted, house, ship, bathroom, whatever it is. It's always the most haunted. So he's like, I got to know it. And he does tours every single day. That's what he does for a living. He does paranormal tours, and people get to pay to go ghost hunting with him. And he gives them their video after they get their evidence. They get a score every single night. So they get to know, like, wow, like we had a really good night, or, we didn't have a great night. And they get the honesty of a score. So, it's a great system. I love it.
Yeah.
And it's growing every year as we add more equipment to it. We add more theory to it. We add more, stuff in there for people to start utilizing. And we even started using it as kind of like a tool to have a little bit of fun and get people involved. We started doing watch parties on YouTube where we watch back an episode of like Ghost Adventures or Kindred Spirits, and we grade them through the scoring system to show how it works and to show how much fabrication and showmanship are in these TV shows.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we've yet to have, I think we've got 4 or 5 episodes now, and we've yet to have anybody score high enough to get a decent score.
Interesting. There's the thing, these TV shows are great. Like I do enjoy them, and I do think they're good for the
Mm-hmm.
paranormal as well because it gets people watching.
Mm,
But you're right,
right.
they kind of have to have activity on a large scale every time they go out to put a show on, basically. And
Yeah.
that's what it is, isn't it? And that's frustrating for you guys that are like, you're going out, you're really doing this not for, views and stuff. You're doing this because you're trying to learn more about the paranormal. So you're gonna have nights where nothing happens. You're gonna have a lot of nights where nothing happens.
Right.
Most paranormal teams will tell you that there are nights where just nothing happens. And it's very common.
Yeah. And it's got a lot to do with, how people investigate. You
Hmm.
have the Baggins of the world where they go in and, hey, Dick, how you doing? Like, I'm gonna fight you,
Let's
you know?
go. Yeah.
And they usually like I'll give them the fact that they do get genuine activity, but
Hmm.
most of the time it's angry, it's pissed off. Like they're not doing anything that makes these spirits want to talk to them or any of the rest of us. And then you have people that go in and it's like, okay, I'm here for this one night. I'm going to shove everything I have into every corner and demand activity. And that's just not going to work out. I mean, if I walked into your house and I threw a bunch of shit on the floor and I'm like, you need to do something, nobody's going to get off the couch. They're not going to get involved. So I'm like, it has to be, and this is something else we've started to test because Nick does his tours. He knows his spirits by this point. He knows the people that existed in these spaces almost on a personal level because he talks to them on a daily basis. And I go down to Pasadena's Suicide Bridge in or Colorado Street Bridge, and I do my own like paranormal tours where I take people ghost hunting there. And at this point, like they know my name, they know who I am, they even know what some of the devices are called because I explain them to people every time we go down there. Like it's building a rapport. Like we're creating a
Interesting.
relationship with these spirits, and we get better activity out of it because now they know, like, okay, they want to talk to us, they want to try to help. Like I'm working on a book for that location because nobody has a full documented list of everybody that's jumped. Nobody has, anything beyond the random news articles that were, from like 1920, 1930, where half of them were wrong. I mean, it's insane to see how much the newspapers mess up.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to create like an actual like book to tell their story for each individual, what happened, how they got to that point, and they ended up, deciding to jump, and give each one of them a story. And I find people every time I go out. I just found a little boy after the last investigation we did, and he wasn't a jumper. He drowned. He was under the bridge. he walked out onto the middle part that they had built, and he fell into the reservoir because they had built a dam and there was no railings there. And the dad sued because his son, fell in and drowned.
Hmm.
So it's like, and I didn't know about him until we got the name Bob on an EVP. And then we got water and we got other terms that all correlated directly to what happened. So I plugged those into newspaper.com where I find most of my information. And I found the article about the name or about the boy
Wow.
Bobby who fell in and drowned.
Wow, man. That must be so, like, obviously that's terrible that a boy's drowned, but when you're getting this information and then you find it in the newspaper, so it all correlates, and that must be so cool to get that confirmation.
Yeah, it's astounding how much information I find this way and how much, you get from these investigations when you do it like that.
Hmm.
Because at some point, like they're trying to tell you a story, they're trying to tell you what's going on. They want to give people information because they want to know or be known.
Hmm.
So it's like the next time I go down there, I get to say, hey, you know what? I don't know if you're still here, but I know who you are. I have your name now. Like we can, you are known. You are not forgotten.
Hmm.
So, and that's honestly all some of these people probably want. I
Yeah.
mean, they're stuck in this horrible place, and the negativity, the negative energy that is built up in that space, like I would venture to say that it's probably created its own entity in a way,
Interesting.
because you have all this negative energy that's constantly flowing in an area.
Hmm.
And there's definitely something darker present at the bridge. But in my mind, all it is a accumulation of negative energy from all of these people that have gone to their death at this location. And it's like all they've done is created this thing that just sucks energy because that's all it knows how to do.
Yeah. 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 That's interesting. It's like I feel like we can create ourselves as humans can create energy, and it's interesting that yeah, you can something can be born from that as well. I think because a lot of these
Right.
like haunted locations that people are going to every weekend to investigate, I think people are putting that energy in these places as well as the spirits that are there as well,
Correct.
and
So I mean,
creating
it's
something.
yeah, it's the concept of a tulpa from
Yes,
Jewish folklore.
yes, yeah, man.
So and it's like prevalent. Like I did an episode on this. It's prevalent in Slender Man. He was
Hmm.
created online for a contest for pictures, and now there are sightings of him. There's video of him. People say they see him. Like it's the concept of a tulpa. And it's the same thing for poltergeist activity. Like we create poltergeist activity. It's almost always tied to someone in their adolescence coming up into puberty, coming up into a lot of stress in their lives. Like it's the human brain being capable of more.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we haven't figured out what that more is, but I can tell you that some of it is, having some of these abilities, whether it's inherent or not. And, creating things that we don't intentionally mean to make.
Hmm.
So and it happens over and over and over again. I mean, there's plenty of cryptids out there
Hmm.
that are only on the list because so many people believe they exist that they now somehow, some way do.
Yeah. That is an interesting concept that we can create these things, and it makes sense as well at the same time. That is fascinating. That blows your mind. Like some of the cryptids, like the Mothman and stuff like that. Who knows
Mhm.
what these things are? But is it possible that with the stories passed down, and that we have actually created the Mothman? I'm not saying the Mothman isn't an alien or whatever it is, but it is possible that we have created that as well, which is wild. It's a wild thought. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's the same concept of pretty much every ancient civilization we know, where
man.
they had their own gods and deities and spirits, and it's the same thing with different cultures and different religions. I always tell people, because you walk into a house and they're like, we're very faithful, we're Christian, we're this, we're that, and it's like, okay, that's great, but the past, owners of your house were Muslim, you know, so it's like I'm not gonna walk in here and I'm not gonna throw crosses and holy water at the walls and tell them to go away because they're just gonna sit there. If it's one of the past owners, they're just gonna stare at me and be like, "What the hell is he doing?" That has no prevalence to them. It means nothing. And like we have to remember when we're investigating, like yes, we're being respectful of whatever cultures or religions are present with the people living, but we also got to think about who we might be dealing with and what their belief systems were.
Hmm. Hmm. Difficult question. But what do you think ghost spirits are? Where are you with that right now? Do you think it's a number of different things going on, or do you what's your thoughts on what ghosts are?
So, in my mind, it's the human soul left the body. So our nervous system runs on electricity, and for something to hold a consciousness, electricity is more than capable of this. So there's actually like they had that whole scientists who tested like the weight of people when they pass and all that stuff, and there's the whole 23 gram debate around him, and like he got that in one test. That was it, one test, one subject, never got it again, never will. And people don't realize like if this is something to be weighed, we can't measure it on any of the scales we have because it's energy. The human body can conduct 100 watts of energy, and that's at rest. We can conduct 300 watts of energy depending on motion, movement, what we're doing. And that's our nervous system. So when we pass, energy cannot be destroyed. So what happens? Well, the electricity can move freely. It's only bound to our nervous system because that's what it's intended for. If it's no longer able to be in our bodies, what's to say it's not a free floating bubble? We can't see EMF. We can't see anything like that. The closest we get is thermal imaging.
Hmm.
So, but if that energy isn't creating enough heat or a cold spot or something to be able to be tracked, it's practically invisible and thermal. So, I think we're free floating energy at that point, and we're dealing with a spirit that is actively able to tell us what's going on, and the consciousness is gone with that bubble, or we're dealing with an energy field that has been basically recharged and imprinted in time space.
Hmm.
So we're dealing with a spirit that or someone that has left an energy imprint that has been imprinted into a high conductive piece of something, limestone, some kind of quartz, something in the rock. There's an alleyway in Charleston where Nick is, and it has bits and pieces in the rocks on the walls. Is that selenium, I believe it is, which is the highly conductive metals we use for cell phones. So it's like, some of these things hold enough energy and they get charged, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, now there's activity. And that's your residual. That's constantly, it's the same thing playing over and over again. It never changes. It has no consciousness.
Hmm.
So it's like
Interesting.
there's so much going on with it. And all it takes is somebody to sit there, look at it, and be like, well, this, we can correlate, EMF radiation to all of these things and explain all of it with this concept. Like, why don't we start testing it? Why don't we start trying to figure it out?
Hmm.
If I've already been trying to look into like what would it take to make the ghost hunter trap, the Ghostbusters, like, and like I need an EMF vacuum, basically. Unfortunately, there's nothing even close to that that we
Not
have the science to create.
not yet.
Exactly. So I'm like, I'm not smart enough to do that part. I'm like, I'm trying, but I am not there. So I'm
You-
like, the best I can do is big Faraday box, try to lure the spirit in and close it in.
yeah,
Like, that's the best I can do. I'm like, now I got to figure out how to build a big Faraday box that's easily mobile.
yeah. The real life Ghostbusters, man.
I'm trying. I'm trying. I'm just not as smart as they are.
When when so what's it called? The black noise that you use, the technique you use when you feel like the energy is getting negative and it stops. What do you think
Mhm.
is happening to the ghosts there, the entities there? Do you think they're being dispersed? What do you think is happening there to them? Do you think they're gone after that, or what's the?
So, do we want the real like sciency version, or do we want the?
I want it all.
Okay, so there's quite a few things happening in that moment. Let me pull up my notes here real quick and give you like the full breakdown of how this works because it's a lot of big words that I can't always remember. And
Brother, I probably won't know what they mean, but I'll make it look like I do.
yeah, it gets pretty involved. Um, and I try to make it as simple as I can because it is a lot. Like I won't lie, it's a lot in my head.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, if it's a lot for you, brother, and I can tell you're a smart dude, it's going to be a lot for me too. But for the listeners, I mean, it'd be great to hear the theory.
so we have
So I'm guessing this is ongoing as well. Like you're not saying this is concrete yet. This is still like an ongoing
correct.
process. Yeah.
Correct. This is all ongoing data that I am constantly like working on and trying to figure out.
Hmm.
Um, and just trying to continue to push farther and farther. And not 100% sure where my notes are for that at the moment. But basically it's a chemical reaction. So when you use ultraviolet light in a black light, what you're using is UVB. Ultraviolet light is split into three: UVA, B, and C. UVA never breaks the atmosphere. UVB is what gives you your sunburns. UVC is highly concentrated. We get some of it, but not a lot. So UVC is practically invisible to the human eye. Like we see barely anything with UVC light. We see UVB light because it's in our field of vision and it's more fun and that's what we use at clubs and it makes things glow and you find scorpions and shit. So when I use UVB blacklight, it doesn't cause ionization directly. It causes a violent process of ripping electrons. So what we're doing is we're practically pulling electrons, or we're imagine it as like batteries in a toy, and we're pulling batteries out of these toys, which is the air molecule. And the air molecule or that toy is now in a panic of I need my electron, I need my battery. So it goes looking for more batteries. And when it finds that EMF field that is free floating and has the electrons or our spirit, it starts pulling the batteries. It starts pulling their electrons because it's trying to replace the ones it lost. So we're practically causing the air to then attack, an EMF bubble or spirit and take all of its electrons. And that is when it is causing ionization in a roundabout way. So in UV, if you're using UVC light, it's a direct ionization. So it's doing it on its own. It skips that second or that first part where we get like the molecules around it involved.
Hmm.
But this process, in my mind, in the research I've done, and in the EVPs and things I get back, I think it's violent. I think it's harmful. I think it hurts. Like I don't know if an EMF field can feel pain, but it sure as hell sounds like it. I get a lot of yelling and screaming in EVPs on Spirit Box on different things, and that's why like I really like unless something is being harmful to me or the people in or with me, I
Hmm.
really try not to use it. And I'll try to say, hey, you know what? I'm turning this on. I'm gonna point it over here, like nobody be over here. Like I try to be as respectful about using it if I'm not using it for protection. And like every time I've ever used it for protection, I get the same result. You get this thickening of the air, which in my mind is the, chemical, process of the ionization happening on the atomic level. And we're feeling that pressure. And then the minute I turn it off, it all dissipates. And in my mind, what is happening is we're either basically tearing all the batteries out of that spirit and they are retreating back to wherever their capacitor is, where they need to recharge, or they're being broken down completely. So once you pull all the electrons out of an energy, an energy field, like there is no more energy field. Like they need those electrons.
Interesting. So energy is kind of being destroyed.
Exactly. So, but it's
Whoa.
through a chemical process, like
Yeah.
it's being transferred in a
Hmm.
way. Like the
Hmm.
electrons are going somewhere. They're just not going where they were. They're being transferred out, pulled to something else.
Interesting, man. That's interesting because when we think of entity spirits, we don't think that they can feel pain, you know. But I get
Mhm.
we don't know what it feels like for them. I mean, but it's interesting that you're hearing like screams and things like that. They are reacting in a like they're in pain, and that's something
Yeah.
we don't think of with ghosts and you know. Interesting, man.
Yeah. And I'm surprised that nobody else has ever really like tried to figure this out and put two and two together. Because I'm sorry,
Hmm.
everything we use is EMF, K2, tri-field meter, Mel meters, REM pod. It's all EMF, and that's
Hmm.
directly EMF. Our cameras are C and light, visible, IR, ultraviolet. Those are all on the EMF spectrum.
Hmm.
The gamma radiation is on the EMF spectrum. X-ray is on the EMF spectrum. Radio wave, microwave, it's all on the EMF spectrum. And we use all of those things when we go ghost hunting. So the very few things that we use that have nothing to do with electromagnetic are like some of the stupid toys that people bring, like the cat balls now. It's like I get it. It's a geophone sensor, that's great, but they all have a different sensitivity. So you can't get like a solid reading from them because they're all a different sensitivity.
Hmm.
Yes, you can be using them to prove something is there and there's something happening. But the fact that they all operate differently, it just screws it,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
You can't. It's hard to measure then. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard to measure because you don't
Hmm.
know how much, sensitivity they have
Hmm.
because it's
Yeah.
just a toy. It's not meant for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so many other things we could be using. Nick and I talk on the podcast. We do an episode about building a paranormal room, for to see activity, and we talk about using a fog machine.
Interesting.
Yeah, because if you seal a room, we talk about like you would be able to see movement because energy still has to disperse space, which means it would have to move the fog.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Is that something you can do? I mean, is that something you're gonna do?
it is. I would love to. I just need to find somewhere where I can,
You need a fog
actually
machine.
do that. Yeah, I need a fog machine, and I'm like, you can use laser grids.
It's probably not cheap.
Uh, no, no, it's not that bad. I think we figured out to do everything we were thinking. The laser grids, the fog machine, a camera, to do the room setup, it's like $500 total. Now I have most of all of that stuff. I just need to
Hmm.
buy a fog machine,
Okay.
and then find somewhere where I could set it up. And that's where you're like you're taping doors, trying to make sure there's no movement. So when something happens that camera can see, there's no way for any airflow in there. So, and
Yeah.
these are some things that like I believe Ghost Hunters is the one that tried this, and they did it on an episode.
Okay.
And before that, you have like the old school investigators that come from the UK, from the original like guys who sat down and were like, we need to figure out how to prove this. And they were using, baby powder and flour and, just recorders and trying to find ways to prove that something was going on using everyday objects and trying to find ways to adapt things into the field.
Hmm. It is interesting, man. I going back to what you said about ultraviolet. I interviewed a guy called Nick Hayes, awesome dude, based in the UK, and he uses a camera that I believe he has someone designed this, and I think he's kind of carried it on. But he uses his camera that he points to the sky with ultraviolet, and he catches all
Mm-hmm.
these like moving objects in the sky that are like living organisms in the sky, and he's caught hundreds of
Mm-hmm.
them. And he believes that is to do with the ultraviolet, that he's catching these things that we can't see them with our naked eye, but he's catching these
Hmm.
moving entities. I believe it was episode 16. Very interesting, and it just makes you that there is a lot going on around us that we can't always see with our naked eye. That with
Right.
ultraviolet, the cameras that we're using and stuff, it's very interesting, man. There's a lot more science to
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, and it really is like there's so much we can't see. I mean, and they found that hummingbirds have an extra rod and cone that we don't. They can see a complete other spectrum of color that we have no idea exists.
Whoa.
And there's a few other animals like that. There was a study done a few years ago where a college actually looked into it and figured out that dogs and cats actually can see farther into the thermal field of vision and can see more into the EMF spectrum than we can. So all of these things with like, oh well, the dog barks at the corner or whatever, they can see what we cannot see, and it
Hmm.
shows that like almost dead on. So, and I mean, their field of vision is a three rod and cone, so they see yellow, blue, green. Like they don't see reds, yellow, or reds and orange and yellow, or like they see their base color, and that's why like they love tennis balls, because it's that yellow, green, and they can see those colors.
Hmm.
They like blue toys; they can't see the color red.
Yeah.
So it's like their world is not in red, and but they can see farther into thermal. They can see heat in some sense. So it's like there's so much that we don't know about the world and
Hmm.
so much that we don't understand about some of the things we're doing and using. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, you get all those teams and they're like, "Oh, look at all the orbs." It's like, look, just because you can't see the light doesn't mean that it doesn't reflect. And I can't stand that. They're like, oh, but look, it's like it's reflecting. It's dust. It's a bug. You can see flapping wings. Like, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't reflect. If
Hmm.
something is in your frame and it is generating light and producing its own light source, then you can call it an orb.
Hmm. Hmm. We get that with like in the night sky. Sometimes you see like a bird that looks
Mm-hmm.
sometimes like a UFO. And there's many videos out there that you think, "Wow,
Mm-hmm.
look at that," and then someone says, "No, that's a seagull," and you're like, "Okay, that does happen. I get tricked very often." So going back to the flannel man ghost
Mm-hmm.
entity, I call it flannel man. I don't want to say it's a flannel man. I don't know what it is, but it's your experience. But how did that look? Was that like a full-bodied apparition?
I thought it was somebody from the tour. Like I just thought it was somebody from the tour, dude. And I'm like, it was such a surreal experience, and I do a better job of telling it in my book, Tales from a Ghost Hunter. Like I've put up pretty much all of my experiences in the paranormal where I've seen, heard, or experienced something that's noteworthy to write down that people will actually want to read, because they don't want to read about how, oh, I got a 100 on my millimeter with an EMF field and we tracked that down to, like, they don't want to know all that crap. They want to know about the scarier shit. They want to know about the fun stuff that, like, oh my god, he saw a person. Like, so I'm like, all
Yeah,
right,
that's
I
what
can
I'm
only write
like.
down, so yeah, I'm like, I can only write down so many things. I think I got like 8 solid stories,
Oh
you
wow.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I
I've,
got a few of them. I've seen quite a few full bodied apparitions at this point. I've experienced with 12 years in the field. I mean, you experience a certain amount of stuff,
hmm.
that's at
Hmm.
least noteworthy enough to write it down and make a story out of.
Yeah. Man, can we have how much time we got? Can we? I know it's getting late where you are. Can
Yeah.
we hear more of your experiences?
Yeah. So there's one that I love. I called the story Canyon Run. So it's up in a city down here called Claremont. And it's like a canyon. So you go up and it's windy road, and it's known for like ghost bikes and different things like that. Canyon racing, teenagers, all that stuff. But originally, the team I went up there with the first time and it was introduced to the space was because they had found, on a Reddit somewhere deep in the internet that space had originally been a gold mining area and that they had massacred the natives, the Indians in the area. And that's, how there's like a paranormal activity to it. And it's just hiking trails, basically. So, I was very skeptical about it. I'm like, we're going hiking, like ghost hunt hiking. And it's still probably one of the most active spaces I think I've ever been to because I used to go there all the time. I was one of those spaces that, again, we frequented because you get to know your ghosts. And higher up on the trail, it's supposed to have like a little more negative energy going on. That's where you feel more like that minor 49er, energy. And it seems to be more like, this is my space, this is my area, you need to get the hell out. And I've had rocks thrown at me. We've heard like audible screaming, where they're telling you go away, get out. Um, you got a question? I can see it on your
No,
face.
man, no, I'm just getting a bit excited. I'm sorry. I do that. I get excited. Sorry, man.
So, we were down there one night and we split into two teams. And we were doing what at that time I called tag along investigations, which has now evolved into my paranormal scavenger hunt tour. So we had taken a bunch of these people that signed up for the event, and we split it into two groups. And I'm like, okay, like you're the co-founder, like you're gonna take them up there, you're gonna run the investigation, do these things. And he's like, okay, so he took them, he went up the trail, and I'm at the bottom of the trail. We're doing different things. And all of a sudden he comes through on the walkie-talkie and he's screaming, I need you up here. Things are happening. And I'm like, ah, hell. Like he's freaking out again. He's sensitive. Like he feels things differently. So I'm like, he was always freaking out. I'm like, great. All right. I'll be right there. Just give me a minute. So, and of course, this is pre dad bod where I can run and do things and I'm athletic. So I take off, and I take a jog and I'm running up the hill up this trail and we're a good like 10 minutes apart. So in the dark, beautiful night. I love being around or run around, in the dark. It's fun. It's, I enjoy it. It's calming. So I'm running up this trail. I hear something in the brush, because there's a little like short brush, something maybe 2-3 inches off the ground brush, on either side of the trail. And it sounds like there's somebody keeping pace with me. I'm like, the fuck is that? So I pull out my flashlight while I'm running and I look. Yeah, there's nothing there. So weird. It stopped, and turn it off, keep going. And it happens on the other side of me. I'm like, the fuck? So again, flashlight, nothing there. It kept switching sides and going back and forth, and I could literally hear somebody keeping pace, the footsteps hitting, like next to me, running. And I'm like, okay, this is like I'm pretty good about the paranormal and shit like that. You don't see me running from things. Like I don't get freaked out easily. I'm like, this got to a point where it started freaking me out because I'm like, there's something here. I can't see it. What the fuck are you doing? Stop doing that. And I'm going back and forth, flashlight, flashlight, flat. And I'm like, so I get up to the top of the hill and it's almost like it stopped following me. And I hit a wall. And it's just like you walked into the pool and it's just like the water. The air's thick. I'm like, the fuck is happening up here? So I walk over to the group. Everybody's freaking out. They're all hysterical. So I calm everybody down. What the hell happened? He's like, they're throwing rocks. He's like, we literally heard somebody from like over here and he hits, a spot with his flashlight. He's like, we heard a man scream, like, fuck you. And he's like, we've been asking questions and there's rocks being thrown at us. As we are standing there, a rock hits the dirt by my feet. And I mean, they're like little pebbles and shit, but what the hell is throwing pebbles at us? The raccoons? So I'm like, okay, that's different. That's odd. So I'm like, okay, this is one of those ish or points. It's like, okay, black lights on. So everybody turns on their black lights. and it just feels like there's an intensity to the air. Like the energy felt to a point where it's like that big, like menacing, like bully, like standing over your shoulder, just like staring at you. And it felt like that the entire time we had the lights on, but nothing was happening. We weren't getting things thrown at us. We get down off the hill, we shut our lights off, and it's like everything dissipates. Light and fluffy cloud area now. So we get down the hill. I'm like, okay. I'm like, take your group, go over to this area. Like, we'll all meet up later. And that's how we ended that piece. But like, I've had so many experiences that space. That's just one of the stories I have there.
Bro. I mean, I have to say, as you were telling me that, I'm thinking that sounds like it could be a Bigfoot too. Now, granted, I love Bigfoot and cryptids. That fits with some of the descriptions you hear from like cryptid encounters.
True.
Oh, bro, that's wild. Have you seen anything else weird like that other than while we're talking cryptids and UFOs? Have you seen anything else?
I have some photos of different things. So I have a photo from that area, and somebody took a picture because I give out a snapshot camera, so somebody can take photos, and it's a digital camera. And one of the photos we have, like we blew it up, we zoomed in, and it looks kind of like a guy standing behind a tree holding a coat. Um, and it kind of looks a little vampire-y. It kind of looks Dracula like. It's a little odd. But I'm just thinking looks funky because he's crossing the fields or whatever. Because I mean, you got to think if they're being visible, they're generating a lot of energy because then they're making a visible light. And that's from that same location where I told that story. The other photos I have is two red eyes in a window, and you can almost make out what looks like ears and like kind of fuzzy head. And so we were like, that's really weird, like maybe it's coyotes or something, because it's out in the middle of like Palmdale, this all desert area. And it's an abandoned building out there. And we're like, oh, that's really weird. So we're like, oh, let's do a comparison photo. Take out a tape measure, we go out again, and we measure it out. And my buddy's like over 6 foot tall. He looks through the window, I can barely see his eyes. I'm like, wait a
Whoa.
minute. I'm like, so I look it up, I do some research. The biggest coyote ever found is not tall enough to look through that window. So I'm like, what the hell was watching us? And it was red eye shine. It's not orange, it's not yellow, it's not like it's red eye shine, which is the same type of eye shine humans give off. So I'm like, if it was a coyote, it should have given out yellow or orange eye shine, not red. Red is human. So I'm like,
What
what the hell was looking in that window?
what were the ears like?
It's really really faint because it's just like dark. Like you see the red eyes and it's just dark, but you can see like almost slightly darker than the darkness, where it looks kind of like pointy ears and just like shaggy hair.
Whoa. So I want to put it out there. Possibly like a dog man. Sounds like to me.
So there is werewolf lore out in that area.
Bro. I get very excited about this. Sorry, man. uh, where do you stand with like cryptids and things like that? Do you think are you a believer
It's
in that kind of thing?
it's it's so possible. I mean, we didn't know about giant squid until somebody thought they had something in 1980, and we didn't prove existence till 2012.
Yeah.
The platypus was originally a cryptid, and they were like, there's no way in hell anything like this actually existed. I think it was what is Lewis and Clark, I think, that originally wrote down stuff about the platypus, and nobody paid any attention to it until somebody actually found one years later, and they're like, oh shit, they were right.
Mm-hmm.
um there's types of rhinoceros
Yep.
that weren't found until way later. The Komodo dragon
Mm-hmm.
was a myth before they found him. Like
The,
we find things
the
all
panda.
the
I think
time.
the panda was quite late that we found the panda.
Yeah, yeah. Just recently, I was watching Expedition X, and they found a branch off side breed of shark that grows bigger in a certain area than it does everywhere else in the world. And it was a type of tiger
Whoa.
shark,
Oh
and it was like
wow.
25, 30 feet long.
Yeah. I mean,
So
there's
it's like,
definitely loads of stuff in our ocean undiscovered.
oh
That's
yeah,
for sure.
oh yeah. There's so many different myths, legends. The Kraken, now we're finding giant squid and giant octopus are a real thing. Like
Hmm.
we have video now. There's a complete, reality to that. The whole megalodon theory, like that's not so far fetched now.
Absolutely, man.
There's
Absolutely.
yeah, in the Mexico area, the Mexican waters, they talk about a black shark, that's bigger than normal. There's actually a lot of, and I found this is I guess its own category called neo dinosaurs, and it's basically modern day dinosaurs being seen.
Yeah,
And
man.
there's, I mean, the Utah raptor, Troodon. There's, the
The
I think it's
pterodactyls are
a
seen a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
pterodactyl. I
Hmm.
mean, and shit in Africa, they think there's a long neck diplodocus. Uh, and it's like that's a huge animal.
Hmm. Hmm.
And one of the biggest ones I've seen was in the New Zealand area. There's multiple sightings of, I think it's a mosasaur. So the thing they show in Jurassic Park, one of the newer movies where it plops up out of the lake and it grabs the T-Rex hybrid and drags it back into the water, that thing.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's called a mosasaur,
Yeah.
and like there's footage on underwater rig cameras from oil rigs of these things,
Hmm.
and there's reports of them around the island of New Zealand. So, and they're
Bro.
technically deep water animals, but they're also reptilian.
Hmm.
So it's like people think that they're laying eggs, around New Zealand, and that's how they survived. But it's like
Whoa.
these are huge animals,
Hmm.
and I had no idea until I looked into it that like there's active sightings every year in New Zealand
Hmm.
of this creature.
Man, I mean, when they say that we only know, I mean, they say, I don't know how they judge this, but we only know 20% of our sea, of our ocean. If there's
Right.
another 80% undiscovered, untouched, unseen, man, there's so much there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So the possibilities are endless.
Oh yeah.
That's what, so possibly you've seen a cryptid, a dog man. Possibly that's what you caught there.
I do believe, yeah. I do
Interesting.
believe we saw something or something decided to look for us. Because
Yeah.
like I said, it was looking in a window and like this is an abandoned location. There is no window. Like there was no glass in that. There's no window there. So I'm like, I know it's no reflection. I know it's not a car. Like it's two red eyes. And like
Yeah.
I didn't give it any thought whatsoever until we started thinking about it. I'm like, that makes no sense.
Man. And I mean, a lot of the times there is possibly a supernatural element to these creatures as well, you know?
Right.
So, bro, have you seen anything else like that? Has anything else stand out like that? Any other?
Uh, not cryptid. Um, I mean, I've been in a lot of haunted areas. I've seen like quite a few different full-bodied apparitions. I've had the whole experience of walking down a tunnel. There's a place called Devil's Gate Dam, and there was a kind of like secret society cult that operated in the area, that inspired other people and inspired other people. And then you get Jim Parsons, who was inspired by it. And he went down there and was doing rituals in this tunnel. And it basically all it is, it's like they built the dam. We don't get no damn rain, so there's no water. And you can walk down the shaft where the water would come out of, and it's this big room. So they were using it as a space to worship and do rituals. So you walk down that tunnel and there's pentagrams and all sorts of shit drawn up on the walls inside of it. And walking back down that tunnel, I experienced something walking alongside me that I thought was another investigator in the group. And when I turned to talk to them, I realized they were like 10, 15 feet behind me. And I was like, what the hell are you walking so slow for? Like, you were just right here. And they're like, no, like, we've been walking, you took off. And they're like, and what made it worse is the guy's like, hey, well, that was so and so walking next to you. Where'd he go? And he's like, no, I'm right here. I'm standing back behind you. And we're like, whoa, like they saw somebody walking next to me too, and just assumed it was one of the others.
Bro. Oh, that's wild. That's wild, man. It makes you wonder how often we can be in a situation like that. And you might not even be in a haunted location, but you see
Hmm.
something that you don't even register as being paranormal, but it could be paranormal, you know?
Yeah.
That
Or it
is,
could be the opposite. So
yeah.
I love telling this one. Um, I had a family reach out to me and they said our house is haunted. Like my son is possessed. Um, all of these horrible things are happening. Our coffee table walked across the room, and I saw my daughter at the house while she was at college. So I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, we got possession, doppelganger activity, and moving inanimate objects. I'm like, what the fuck is happening at this house? So we get there, we go through everything, Christian based family, you know, old house built in the 50s. So I'm like, okay, have you done any work to the house? No, nothing. I'm like, okay. Like, in the 50s, insulation for wiring was paper wrap. They just wrap it in paper. I'm like, you done any plumbing work? No. In the 50s, everything's copper piping. Is your roof insulated? Because they're like, oh, we hear somebody walking across the roof all night. Well, your roof's not insulated. It's made out of wood. I look up, it's wood plank. I'm like, you're hearing contracting wood during the night because it cools down and it contracts and it makes popping noises that sound like footsteps, and it would happen here and there throughout the night. And I'd be like, right there, right there, right there. Like that's contraction. That's the wood contracting from being expanded from the heat all day. And, we go into the bathroom, like flush the toilet, bah, 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 all the way down the hall. I'm like, that is your plumbing. You have old copper pipes, new pipes, problem solved. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, how do I explain walking coffee table? How do I explain doppelganger? I'm like, there's got to be a reason. So walking around with an EMF meter, because your normal K2 meter is useless when you want to do real research. It's just a blinky light thing that goes on. You can be like, hey, touch it for yes. You use it for question and answer. That's about it. So I got a meter and it reads up to 999 milligauss, which is the type of measurement we take for electricity in the paranormal. And I'm like, damn, I'm reading like a 20 walking around the house. I'm like, that's really high. Acceptable levels, according to like water and power, like they send out flyers every year, that nobody reads. They all throw them away because nobody cares. And it talks about EMF sensitivity. And the acceptable level to live around is 2.0. I was reading a 20, 10 times the normal allowed level in their house, walking around at head level. So I go and I sit down on the couch and I hold it up. 25. I'm like, they are getting dosed with high levels of magnetic radiation to their face all the time. Everywhere I walked in the house, high EMF. Walk over the electrical panel, maxed out the meter, completely maxed it out. I'm like, none of your wiring is covered properly. I'm like, it's all old paper wrap. It's not insulated whatsoever. I'm like, the wires are starting to fray because they're old and it is just blowing up the place with electromagnetic radiation. One of the symptoms of EMF sensitivity is hallucinations. It starts with paranoia. It can make you sick, nauseous, throw up, upset stomach, the whole Pepto Bismol commercial, and it ends with hallucinations. So I'm like, you thought you saw your daughter walk through the house. It was a hallucination. You thought you saw your coffee table walk across the room. It was a hallucination. I'm like, you're being dosed every single day when you're here.
Whoa.
Your
Yeah.
brain is starting to see, things that are being generated by the fact that there's so much electricity going on. And, so I'm like, this isn't paranormal, in my opinion. We did a full investigation. We did everything like we normally did. We reviewed everything twice just to make sure. Got nothing. The entire time we were there, got zilch. And I told them, I'm like, in my opinion, I have done everything we can. There's no activity in your house. You have bad plumbing, bad wiring, and you need an insulation for your roof. I'm like, and all your problems will go away.
Wow.
Except for maybe your son, because I don't know what's up with him, but he had guns and ammo everywhere in his bedroom. So I was like,
Whoa.
I don't want to be here when he gets back.
Yeah. Wow, man. Did you follow up with them? Did they manage to sort that issue out, or do you know if they?
They refused to believe anything I said. They said that
Uh,
it was demons, her son was possessed, and that the activity was real. And at that point, there's nothing I can do.
yeah. Yeah. Man, I mean, if you're if you're telling them that you think they'd want to at least, even if they, you know,
Yeah.
don't believe that,
But
they'd
to
want to at
them,
least try to sort out the
yeah,
situation. Yeah.
yeah. But to them, these
Wow.
experiences were so real
Hmm.
that they're like, there's no way it wasn't real. There's no
Yeah.
way this isn't in my head. You know, I mean, I had a family reach out and show me video of their daughter that was in the hospital. And then, like, she keeps having seizures. So, and they showed me a seizure where basically the only thing touching the table is your toes and the top of your head. And it's called a possession seizure because of the way it looks, because the body tenses so like harmfully that you stretch to that extent. And they're like, she keeps telling us that there's a little man, like a little devil, that's pulling her tongue back. And I'm like, I'm sorry to tell you, like, this is common with seizures. Like, she keeps having them. It's causing hallucinations. It's causing, her to see things. I'm like, your tongue rolls back when you have a seizure. That's the whole point of why they tell you to roll them on their side, roll them on their stomach, because they're trying to help gravity allow the tongue to get out of its way so that you breathe and don't die.
Hmm.
I'm like, it's just medical. I'm like, let the doctors deal with it. Like, this is not something where I should be stepping in, and they refuse to believe it because they're like, no, it's got to be more. Sometimes people's faith stands so securely in the way of something, that has nothing to do with it, honestly.
Hmm.
And I don't, you know, my last name is Amon, but I don't follow a religion. I don't. And it's not because I'm like, oh, none of this can be real, or, I'm not trying to be mean to anyone. I've taken a class in religions because it is an important aspect of our societies. And it helps a lot to know about different cultures and different religions and beliefs when I'm investigating, because I know how to deal with either the people that are living in that space or the people that, passed in that space and are still there.
Hmm. Yeah, man. I mean, it's sad because if your daughter's sick or someone in your family's sick, you'd think you'd want to, even if you think they're possessed, you'd still want to check out all the other possibilities and put them right, and then
Mm-hmm.
assess at
Yeah.
least. Right. Yeah. Wild stuff, man. I mean, that's why it's so good that teams like yourself, you help a lot of people, and yeah, so it's good. It's good, but people need to listen to you and at least try those steps, and then if it's still going on, then you know, take more action. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
man.
mean, there's so much that needs to be involved.
Hmm.
Nick and I always talk about you're not just a paranormal investigator. There is no expert in our field. Like, you can't be an expert in the field. You can't be an expert in any field. because the minute you're a master and an expert and you know everything in that field, you've stopped learning,
Mm-hmm.
which means you're counterproductive to your job at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's always something more to learn. There's always something to know. You have to know how a house goes together. You have to know how electrical works, plumbing works. You should know about religion. You should know about all of these aspects that go into everyday society and how to debunk these things so you can investigate properly. And there's always going to be something more. There's always going to
Mm-hmm.
be something else you need to learn or something you need to know. I'm going to be doing the Omen House out here, and that's where the whole Manson murder thing happened. Um, and like I've been talking to the owner. I'm actually going to be running two exclusive events at the house there. So in one's this Friday, and then one's the following Friday on October 3rd.
Wow.
And like I have to look into and do more research on magnetic fields, because he's got some kind of weird geomagnetic thing going on around that house that has been documented by another paranormal, like I'll say like professor, just because he went by parapsychologist, and he did research there and said that there was something weird about the land.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like now I got to look into that and I got to learn more about that and see what I have that can read and help me figure that out so I can see what I'm walking into.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's always more, and the minute people walk in and they're like, oh, well, I'm a demonologist. I read books, and I'm a parapsychologist because I've been doing this long enough to feel important. It's like, get over yourselves. Like, we're all trying to do better, learn more, and figure this out. But you can't
Mm-hmm.
act like you know what you're doing or you know everything or you're
Yeah.
special because, you're doing all this stuff. I talk to people on a normal basis that, like you said, you got that guy that's seeing stuff up and with UV cameras. It's like, I've never heard of that. I'd love to talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd love to talk to more of these people that are doing cool, awesome things. We
Mm-hmm.
talked to Mike Delco that made the Delco goggles. You know, and it's like there's so many people out there. They're doing so much cool things, and it's like I want to talk to all of them and learn how to do some of this shit and why they did it.
Mm-hmm.
So we can all keep expanding and moving forward into the paranormal field until we can get this out of the category of pseudoscience and actually turn it into a field of study.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Because there's so many different aspects to all the paranormal, ghosts, cryptids, UFOs. There's so much going on, man. And it's as you say, there's no experts in this stuff. I know some people. Well, there's people that do a lot of research and know a lot of things, but we don't have the answers yet. So we're all just trying to put it all together. And without a lot of people doing that and coming together, that's never going to happen. So it's very important, as you say, that you know, we share, we talk to
Exactly.
more people, and that's how we learn, man. And we never stop learning. And that's what's quite cool. I've got to ask
Yeah.
you, I know it's getting super, super late, and we've gone well over
Oh,
the time that we said. I've
no
got
worries.
entities that you see. You
Mhm.
said you've seen a few full-bodied apparitions. Do they always
Correct.
appear the same to you? Is there differences? Are they always solid entities?
I've never seen I've never seen anything that wasn't solid. Like I saw that location I talked about earlier, the canyon, Evie Canyon. We on lower on that trail, there's like these outlets where it's almost like area carved out of the woods. It kind of looks like campsite. And we were up like two or three of those, and we heard talking and laughing, and I walked over the edge. I looked, and I was like, "Oh, there's some kids." Like I could clearly see some what I thought looked like a high school girl in a Letterman jacket and jeans. Brunette, white girl. Like I could describe what she looked like. And from the time that I looked over and saw her, and then looked back at my team and was like, "Oh, it's just some kids," and I looked back, gone, silence, nothing there. And I'm like, "What?" And I took off. Like I took off like a light and like a shot, and I run over there and there's nobody there, no footprints. I run my happy ass all the way back up the trail to where we park our cars, no other cars, no tire tracks, no nothing. Like you can't walk up to where we were, unless you are one hell of a runner.
Hmm.
Because it is way up there. Like you're going quite a ways up this trail, winding uphill. And I was just like, how the hell? So I come running back down, and they're all standing there looking at me like, where the fuck did you go? Because we were all together, so I didn't have the walkies. And I'm like, I just saw like a full bodied apparition. So and we go over there, and I'm like, we're talking about it, and we're standing in the area where I saw her. I'm like, what the hell would have it? Like, why would there be a high school kid here?
Hmm.
My buddy looks at me. He's like, well, it's a canyon. He's like, kids go racing in the canyon. They do canyon runs. And he's like, maybe they crashed their car, and that's what happened. And in the middle of him talking, we got an EVP of a girl, and it says we did.
Oh, whoa! Oh man, that gave me goosebumps, bro. Whoa, that's
Yeah, and
wild.
it was insane, And again, he heard it as it happened, And we're all like, "What the fuck's wrong with you? Why are you freaking out?" He's like, "She said something. She talked. I could hear her." When we play the recorder back, sure as shit, there it is.
Wow, that's wild, man. Does it always happen like that for you, where it's like, have you ever been like laying there at night and woke up and seen an entity, or has it always been like, well, you've been on an investigation and it's like, oh, there's someone, oh, they're gone? Has it always been like that?
So, I mean, anytime I've seen an actual like full body apparition, that's kind of how it works.
Hmm.
I've never done the whole experience where I've woken up and seen something. The one time that did happen to me, I punched it and it was my mom, and then I gave her a black eye. So, you know,
I shouldn't laugh at that. I shouldn't laugh.
I, she shouldn't have been standing there staring
Yeah,
at me in the
no,
middle of the night.
yeah.
Like she trained me well. At least I hit it. At least she knows how to protect myself. But like I've never woken up and had like the entity at the end of the bed, or the hat man in the corner, or like some of these things that people say they have happen all the time.
Hmm.
I rarely feel like anything is in my house ever. And I've rarely ever felt like anything is like people are like, oh no, you don't want it to follow you home. Like I've never had that happen. I go home, you stay here. Bye. Like that's how it works for me, and I go home, and it's like I have a haunted item in my house. I have a haunted item that's sealed in a container, and we have a friend that does Wicca, and so she sealed it into the container for me, and like I have to play with that more. I have to take that out and open it up and see if I can contact the item and put it back and see if it seals properly because it's a interesting how Wicca works. I definitely want to look further into that as well, and
What
how
is,
that would work.
what's the item? What is the item?
So the item is it's microfiche film. It's book pages and a photo, and it was
Oh, okay.
found in a house with a fire. So, and all these items were found up in an attic, up on like a shelf. So there's a paranormal team out in, I believe it's like the UK area, that collects a bunch of this stuff. And they investigated, and everything led them to these items. So they sent them out to a haunted collector that does like haunted items, and then they investigated it. They got some material. I actually interviewed the guy that ran the company for that, and that's on the podcast as well. And the
Interesting.
company was called Real Haunted Items. And we were talking about it, and I was like, yeah, like I took it down, I opened it, I did an unboxing video to help advertise them, and I did it at a haunted location, and I got the name Mike. And I was like, and he's like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I got the name Mike. He's like, we got the name Michael when we were investigating that item. He's like, I have my notes. And I was like, that's nuts. So it's like it's really an actual haunted item. I was really surprised.
Mhm.
I honestly thought they were going to send me something and be like, "Oh, it's spooky," and it wasn't going to do shit. So, but it's
Interesting,
like,
man.
yeah,
Yeah, it's wild stuff. It don't. And going back to what you're saying about like not with the entities that are like solid that you see and then
hmm
they're there and then they're gone. how often people are having these experiences and not even realizing, you know, and
Yeah,
it must be a lot more common than we think. Interesting
yeah,
stuff.
and
Because you
I mean,
obviously
you think
you're
about it,
yeah.
it's again, it's back to the EMF.
Hmm.
We see an EMF spectrum because visible light is on the EMF spectrum. So all they have to do is accumulate enough energy to be visible.
Yeah, yeah, man. Brother, you've blown my mind tonight. I've loved talking to you, man. Hopefully this is the first of many conversations. I'd love to talk to you guys more.
Yeah,
And
of course.
thank you so much for staying up. I know it's very late where you are now. It's got to be pushing 2 o'clock near. It's 1:30 where you are now in the morning. So that's the time I
Yeah.
normally record. So it's weird for me as well. But I appreciate you staying up. Thank you so much, man. Can you tell the
Of
listeners
course.
where they can find you, your podcast, your books? Where can people find you, man?
Yeah, so the podcast is Stories in the Cemetery. You can find Nick at Stories in the Cemetery on everything social media. We have the Patreon, we have the podcast, the books. If you look up SITC, SITC, you get the workbooks, you get the almanac, like all that'll show up on Amazon. And then all of my social media is Eamon Paranormal Research. So, and I do a lot of like paranormal experimentation. I actually show how my EMF theory works live in video with like black lights, EMF pump, and an ion meter, and show people like what's actually happening. So, yeah, we do a lot of research and stuff like that. So, and then again, my book, Tales from a Ghost Hunter. So you can find that on Amazon as well.
Awesome. Awesome stuff, man. Well, I will share the links in the show description so people can go right now and get that. Thank you so much, brother. Let's do this again soon. Keep up the great work.
Of
And yeah,
course.
thank you for your time, man. Thanks for staying up.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. It was a great conversation.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, share it where you can. That is a great way to support the show. And we'll be back very soon for more freaky conversations. In the meantime, stay safe and keep it freaky. Bye for now. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.